I'd give $100,000 to never look at your face again. Her words cut through the conference room like a knife. 23 executives from our London office stared at their notebooks, their coffee cups, anywhere but at me. The silence felt like concrete setting around my feet. Viva Harlow, my manager of 5 years, stood at the head of the table, her pearl necklace catching the fluorescent light as she practically spat the words. Her presentation slides glowed behind her, showing the quarterly numbers I'd spent 3 sleepless nights correcting after she'd completely bungled them. I said I would give $100,000 to never see your pathetic hovering face again, Nora. Do you understand me? My hands shook beneath the table. 5 years. 5 years of covering her errors. 5 years of taking her late-night calls. 5 years of apologizing to clients when she failed to deliver. 5 years of watching her take credit for my work. And now this, because I'd quietly fixed a critical mistake in her presentation 10 minutes before the meeting, saving her from international humiliation yet again. I felt 23 pairs of eyes finally shift to me, waiting. Everyone expected me to do what I always did. Lower my head, whisper an apology, and continue being the perfect assistant. Instead, I looked straight at Vivica and said, "Deal." The room went so silent you could hear the air conditioning whir. "What did you just say?" Vivica's perfectly lined lips barely moved. I said, "Deal, $100,000. I'll take it." I stood up, my chair rolling backward and striking the wall. I didn't even flinch at the noise. Something inside me had snapped, but it wasn't me that was broken. It was the chains. "You can have my resignation letter in an hour. That was 6 months ago, but I'm jumping ahead. Hi, I'm Nora Winters. I'm 34, and until recently, I was senior project coordinator at a prestigious international consulting firm, the kind that reshapes global corporations and makes headlines when announcing new partnerships. If you're watching this, wow, I never imagined I'd share this story publicly, but here we are. If you relate to any part of what I'm about to tell you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm curious, where are you watching from? And has anything like this happened to you at your workplace? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Let me back up. I need you to understand who Viva Harlow was and who I was before that day in the conference room. Vivica was what people call unstoppable, youngest female partner in the firm's history. Harvard MBA featured in business magazines under headlines like 30 Under 30 and Women Reshaping Business. She had this way of walking into rooms that made everyone straighten their posture. She wore exclusively black, white, and blood red, never a hair out of place. And me? I was her secret weapon, the person who made her success possible. When I joined the firm straight out of business school, I was assigned to Vivica's team. She quickly realized I had a knack for spotting problems before they exploded and fixing them quietly. Within 6 months, she requested me as her dedicated coordinator. "We're going to do great things together, Nora," she told me, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I see potential in you." What she really saw was someone she could exploit. The first time I saved her was 3 months in. She'd submitted a proposal to a major airline with pricing that would have cost our firm millions. I caught it at 11 p.m., recalculated everything, and had a corrected version on her desk by 6 a.m. She never acknowledged it, just took the new document to the meeting. The second time, she'd overlooked a crucial deadline for a government contract. I stayed up for 38 straight hours putting it together while she was at a charity gala. When the contract was approved, she sent a company-wide email thanking the team for their support. The third time, she blamed me for missing a client call that she'd actually slept through. I apologized to everyone and rescheduled. She later told me, "That's why I keep you around, Nora. You're so good at taking the fall." By the 23rd time that day in the conference room, I'd become nothing but a shadow, a ghost existing solely to make Viva Harlow shine brighter. My mother had passed the week before that meeting. I had asked for 2 days off to attend the funeral in Glasgow. Viva had said, "We have the London presentation. Can't your family postpone it?" I went to the funeral. I flew back the same night. I stayed up until dawn fixing her presentation. And then she said she'd pay to never see my face again. When I walked out of that conference room, something shifted. It was like I'd been underwater for 5 years, and suddenly my head broke the surface. I could breathe. I could see clearly. I went straight to my desk and began writing my resignation letter. But as I typed, a new idea started forming. $100,000 to never see your face again. Her words kept reverberating. And I thought, what if I took her seriously? What if I made sure she actually paid? Not just with money, with everything. Viva Harlow had built her entire career on my quiet competence, on my willingness to stay invisible. What would happen if I simply stopped being invisible? I deleted my resignation letter and opened a new document. I titled it the Harlow File. For 5 years, I'd kept records of everything. Not because I plotted revenge. I was just methodical by nature. Every late-night email where she asked me to correct her mistakes, every time she claimed my work in writing, every manipulative message, every altered document, every client she'd mistreated when no one important was watching. 23 critical incidents where I had literally saved her career. All documented, all dated, all backed up in multiple locations. I hadn't realized I was assembling a case. I was just being Nora, thorough, detailed, precise. I began arranging the evidence chronologically. The altered budget reports, the client presentations she'd taken as her own, the times she'd instructed me to backdate documents, the inappropriate remarks about clients that I'd recorded during prep sessions with her, awareness to help me perform better. By midnight, I had a 40-page document detailing 5 years of corporate manipulation, credit theft, and occasional fraud. Nothing serious enough to be criminal. Viva was too clever for that, but enough to ruin her reputation and career if it ever surfaced. I closed my laptop and exhaled deeply. I wasn't going to use this, not yet. It was insurance. The next morning, I walked into her office without knocking. She looked up, startled. I never entered without permission. "I've reconsidered my resignation," I said evenly. She leaned back in her chair, a small, victorious smirk tugging at her lips. "I thought you might. Everyone has their moment of rebellion, Nora. Even you. I'd like to propose a transfer instead to the Singapore office." Her smile wavered. The Singapore office was our firm's fastest-growing branch. It was where careers were made. "That's not possible," she said flatly. "You're needed here. I've already spoken to Darius Chen." Darius was head of Singapore operations and a longtime rival of Vivica's. He'd been trying to recruit me for 2 years. He's prepared to make a formal offer. That was partly true. Darius had mentioned once that I'd be an asset in Singapore. I had emailed him at 3 a.m., and he'd replied enthusiastically by the time I got to the office. "You went behind my back for the first time." I saw genuine shock on her face. "I'm exploring my options, but I recalled your generous offer yesterday." "What offer?" She genuinely didn't remember. $100,000 to never see my face again. "I'm prepared to accept those terms with conditions." She laughed, but it sounded hollow. "You can't be serious. That wasn't a real offer. I have a meeting with HR at 11 to discuss my transfer. I thought you might want to know first as a professional courtesy." I turned to leave. "Nora, wait." Her voice had that commanding edge that usually made me freeze. "Let's discuss this reasonably. You're overreacting to a momentary frustration. We all have bad days." I faced her squarely. "My conditions are simple. You support my transfer to Singapore with a glowing recommendation. You include a relocation bonus of $100,000, exactly the amount you offered, and you never contact me directly again." "Or what?" Her eyes narrowed. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She was smart enough to connect the dots. If I went to Singapore under Darius's guidance, all her manipulations would eventually surface. Darius would exploit anything to weaken her position. She knew how meticulous I was with documentation. "I'll consider it," she finally said. "The transfer request needs your approval by end of day. I've already drafted the recommendation letter for your signature." I placed a folder on her desk. The relocation bonus can be processed through HR as a retention incentive given my 5 years of service. I had anticipated every detail, every potential objection, every corporate rule she might try to use against me. As I walked out, I heard her murmur, "When did you grow a spine?" The truth was, I'd always had one. I'd just been carrying her weight on it for so long that I'd forgotten how to stand tall. The transfer was approved by end of day. The relocation bonus, exactly $100,000, was processed within the week. Her recommendation letter described me as irreplaceable and a vital asset to the firm's global operations. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Singapore, watching London vanish beneath the clouds. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow because this wasn't revenge. This was escape. And Viva Harlow deserved more than simply losing me. She deserved to lose everything she'd built on my broken boundaries, on my stolen work, on my sacrificed time. When I landed in Singapore, I had a message from Darius. "Welcome to the team dinner tonight to discuss your role over exquisite chili crab and tiger beer." Darius explained that he wanted me to lead a new initiative connecting our Asian and European operations. "Your experience with Vivica's clients is invaluable," he said, "and your reputation for problem-solving precedes you." I nearly choked on my beer. "My reputation? Nora? Everyone knows you're the real genius behind Vivica's success. We've just been waiting for you to realize it too." That night in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. Not because of jet lag, but because I realized I'd made a fundamental mistake. I'd removed myself from Vivica's world, thinking it was the ultimate revenge. But in doing so, I'd also removed the possibility of justice. I'd taken the money and run. I'd let her continue her pattern with the next unsuspecting assistant, the next Nora. I opened my laptop and stared at the Harlow file. What would happen if this information reached the right people? Not as a vindictive leak, but as a carefully presented case study in corporate manipulation. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Missing you already. The new girl is useless. Call me when you land." She couldn't even last 2 weeks without me. And she had directly violated our agreement not to contact me. That's when I knew leaving wasn't enough. The money wasn't enough. Viva Harlow needed to experience what it felt like to have everything taken away, just as she'd taken from me for 5 years. I glanced at the time. It was 3 a.m. in Singapore, 7 p.m. in London. I opened my email and began drafting a message to 3 people. Our CEO, the head of HR, and the head of the ethics committee. The subject line read, "Pattern of concern documentation regarding Vivica Harlow." My hands hovered over the keyboard. Was I really going to do this? Was I ready to dismantle someone else's career? Then I remembered my mother's funeral. How I'd sat alone in the back of the church because I'd had to catch the last flight back to London. How I hadn't even stayed for the reception where my cousins shared memories and photographs. I remembered the 23 critical saves, the countless weekends, the sleepless nights, the panic attacks in bathroom stalls between meetings. I began typing. "I am submitting this documentation not out of malice, but out of concern for our firm's integrity and for the well-being of current and future employees." I attached the first 5 pages of the Harlow file, enough to illustrate the pattern, but not enough to reveal my full hand. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I turned off my phone, closed my laptop, and finally slept for the first time in what felt like years. I woke to 17 missed calls and 38 emails. The first call was from Darius. "Call me immediately. Something's happening with Viva." The emails ranged from formal acknowledgments from HR to panicked messages from former colleagues in London. "What did you do?" asked Lena, my former deskmate. Vivica's on a warpath, wrote Trent from legal. Emergency partners meeting called for 9 a.m. London time, reported Julian, an executive assistant I'd befriended. I sat up in bed, heart racing. I'd expected a response, but not this quickly, not this intensely. I called Darius first. The ethics committee has received your documentation, he said without preamble. They've requested the complete file. I swallowed hard. How bad is it? They've never convened an emergency weekend session before. His voice was carefully neutral. This isn't just about you and Viva anymore. The initial evidence suggests potential misrepresentation to clients. The firm could be liable. My stomach sank. I hadn't considered that angle. I'd been so focused on Vivica that I hadn't thought about how her actions might implicate the firm. What should I do? I asked. Send them everything, all of it, and then stay silent. He paused. Nora, are you certain about this? There's no turning back. Was I certain? 5 years of my life had vanished into Vivica Harlow's shadow. 5 years of achievements credited to someone else. 5 years of boundaries crossed, redrawn, and crossed again. I'm certain, I said. I spent the next 3 hours assembling the complete Harlow file. I sorted the evidence by category: client misrepresentation, internal credit theft, manipulation of staff, result falsification, and ethical breaches in client dealings. I added a detailed timeline supporting files, emails, calendar screenshots, voice recordings from meetings where she'd instructed me to tweak data just enough to make us appear stronger. Before sending it, I wrote a note. I understand this documentation may have significant consequences for the firm. That was never my intention. I believe in our company's stated principles of integrity and respect. I am sharing this information not to damage the organization, but to prevent further harm by a single individual who has repeatedly ignored those values. I am willing to assist in any inquiry and answer any questions regarding this material. I hit send, then shut off my email alerts. I needed to clear my thoughts. Singapore was still unfamiliar to me. I wandered through bustling streets, past shining towers and colonial facades, through crowded hawker stalls swirling with the aroma of chili and garlic. No one here knew me. No one was watching to see how I reacted. No one was waiting for me to mend their errors. For the first time in 5 years, I was simply Nora. My phone buzzed with a text from an international number I didn't recognize. You traitor. I made you. You'd be nothing without me. I will destroy your career for this. Vivica had gotten a new number to slip past my block. Typical. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to HR without a word. By Monday morning, I'd been asked to join a video call with the ethics committee. 7 stern faces stared back at me from the screen. Miss Winters, we've reviewed your documentation, said Esther Chakrabarty, the head of the committee. We'd like to ask you a few questions. For the next 3 hours, they carefully examined the Harlow file. They asked for context, for clarification, for my memory of events. I answered everything steadily and plainly. I didn't exaggerate. I didn't need to. Why come forward now? Asked Frederick Patel, the committee's oldest member. I told them about the conference room incident, about the funeral, about the 23 saves. To be clear, I finished. I'm not seeking compensation or revenge. I simply believe the firm deserves to know the truth about a partner who has repeatedly violated our stated ethical guidelines. When the call ended, I felt exhausted, but oddly calm. Whatever happened from here was no longer in my control. 3 days later, I received a call from our CEO, Margot Weathers. Nora, I wanted to speak with you directly, she said. Her Australian accent was more pronounced than usual, a sign she was under pressure. The situation with Viva has grown complicated. I understand, I said, though I didn't. Not entirely. She's threatening legal action against the firm if we move forward with any disciplinary steps. She claims your evidence is fabricated out of personal hostility. My heart dropped. Of course Vivica would fight. Of course she would try to undermine me. The documentation speaks for itself, I said. Every email can be verified on our servers. Every meeting is logged in our calendar system. Every client exchange is archived. Yes, our IT team has verified the authenticity of your evidence, Margot said. But Vivica holds considerable sway with several board members and major clients. This could become messy. I understood the implication. Vivica was too valuable to simply discard, even with proof of ethical misconduct. What do you need from me? I asked. Would you be willing to return to London temporarily, to participate in the formal review? We would cover all expenses, of course. Return to London, face Viva head-on, subject myself to questioning, likely by people who owed her their positions. When? I asked. The review begins next Monday, 3 days from now. I closed my eyes. I had assumed sending the file would be enough, that justice would unfold without requiring more from me, that I could begin fresh in Singapore while Vivica faced the consequences back in London. I had been naive. I'll be there, I said. The flight back to London gave me far too much time to think. What if Vivica had already turned everyone against me? What if my evidence wasn't enough? What if the entire review was just a formality before dismissing my claims? I arrived at Heathrow, feeling as if I were walking straight into a trap. Julian met me at arrivals. God, it's good to see you, he said, pulling me into a tight hug. You have no idea what it's been like here. In the taxi, he briefed me. The office had basically split into two sides, Team Vivica and Team Truth. Viva had been put on administrative leave during the review, but she was still issuing orders from her Notting Hill townhouse. She's been contacting everyone one by one, Julian said, reminding them of favors she's done, dropping vague threats about their futures if they back the investigation. Sounds like Viva, I said. But here's the thing, she's terrified. Really terrified. I'd never witnessed her like this before. That night, I stayed in a hotel close to our office. The firm had offered to place me somewhere far nicer, but I had chosen this spot specifically because it was where we hosted traveling clients, which meant Vivica would never step foot there. At 11 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I picked up. You can still stop this, Viva said without any greeting. Her voice was deeper than usual with a faint slur. She'd been drinking. Hello to you too, Viva. Do you even realize what you've done? The clients threatening to pull out, the partners now doubting everything I've ever delivered. That sounds like a natural consequence of your behavior, not mine. She let out a bitter laugh. My behavior? I played the game, Nora. The same game everyone at our level plays. I just played it more skillfully. Is that truly what you think this is? A game? Of course it's a game. And you were a willing participant until you suddenly pretended the rules didn't include you. I sat at the edge of the hotel bed. I never agreed to your rules, Viva. I never agreed to surrender my dignity, my time, my entire life for your rise. Oh, please, you benefited from our arrangement. Don't act like you didn't. And how exactly did I benefit? By missing my mother's funeral reception? By having panic attacks in restroom stalls? By watching you claim credit for my work year after year? There was a long silence. What do you want? She finally asked. Money? A promotion? Your position back in London? I want you to grasp what you did, I said quietly. I want you to feel what it's like to have everything stripped away by someone you trusted. So this is revenge, her voice sharpened. You should know I've never lost a battle, Nora. Not once. There's a first time for everything. I ended the call and blocked the number. The review process started Monday morning in a conference room I knew far too well, the same one where Vivica had humiliated me 6 months earlier. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. The committee included 3 partners, 2 board members, our chief legal officer, and Margot. Viva sat on one side with her personal attorney, a sleek-looking woman in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I sat across from them with nothing but my documentation. "We'll begin with Ms. Harlow's response to the allegations," said Lawrence Chen, the most senior partner in the room. For the next hour, Vivica and her lawyer delivered a polished, strategic defense. They portrayed me as a bitter employee who had manipulated evidence to frame her superior after being overlooked for promotion. They implied I had intentionally sabotaged Vivica while pretending to support her. They questioned why, if these ethical breaches were so severe, I had waited 5 years to disclose them. I watched the faces around the table. Some were nodding, others looked conflicted. When my turn came, I didn't try to match Vivica's refinement or her attorney's legal sharpness. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder labeled insurance policy. I suspected Ms. Harlow would challenge the legitimacy of my documentation, I began. So, I'd like to present additional material that I did not include in the original Harlow file. I connected my laptop to the projector. On the screen appeared a video, one of many I'd recorded over the years. In the footage, Vivica was clearly visible in her office. I was off camera, but my voice was audible. "The client is asking for the original data before we applied the adjustments," my recorded voice said. Vivica rolled her eyes in the video. "Just tell them the dog ate it, or better yet, send them a fresh spreadsheet with different formatting so they won't realize the numbers are slightly off. But that would be you doing your job, Nora. Make this disappear. I don't care how." I paused the video and looked directly at Viva. The color had drained from her face. "I have 17 recordings like this," I said evenly. "All made with Ms. Harlow's awareness and approval as part of our standard meeting documentation procedure. She often asked me to record our discussions about client matters so she wouldn't need to take notes. That wasn't entirely accurate. Vivica had known I was recording, but she never imagined I would keep the recordings or use them this way. Furthermore, I continued, I've prepared a document outlining the financial consequences of Miss Harlow's misrepresentations to clients. Based on my calculations, her actions put roughly $14 million of firm revenue at risk due to potential breach of contract claims. The room fell completely silent. Vivica's attorney leaned over and whispered something into her ear. Vivica shook her head violently. "Miss Harlow," said Margot cautiously, "would you like to respond to this new evidence?" Vivica stood so abruptly that her chair tipped backward and struck the wall, echoing exactly as mine had 6 months earlier. "This is a setup," she hissed. "She's been planning this for years, recording me, documenting everything, waiting for the perfect moment to stab me in the back." "Is any of the evidence falsified?" asked Esther from the ethics committee. Vivica's eyes darted across the room, searching for allies, finding none. "That's not the point," she insisted. "The point is context. The point is intent. The point is that she's trying to ruin me out of petty jealousy." "The point," I said softly, "is that you've been manipulating clients, colleagues, and subordinates for years. The evidence isn't fabricated, and you know it." Vivica turned to me, her face twisted with fury. "You are nothing. Do you understand me? Nothing. You think you can take me down? I built this department. I brought in half our major clients. I am irreplaceable." I met her gaze steadily. "No one is irreplaceable. Vivica, you taught me that." The review continued for 3 more days. Additional evidence was presented. Clients were contacted discreetly. Former team members were interviewed. On Thursday afternoon, I was summoned to Margot's office. "The board has reached a decision," she said. "Vivica's partnership is being terminated, effective immediately. The ethics violations were too numerous and serious to overlook." I nodded, feeling oddly hollow. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? "There's more," Margot continued. "Given the nature of her misrepresentations, we've had to notify certain clients. 3 have already indicated they'll take their business elsewhere." I murmured, "I'm sorry." "Don't be. This isn't your fault. But it does create a serious challenge for the firm. She leaned forward. We need someone who understands these client relationships, someone who can repair the damage. I stared at her. You want me to take over Vivica's clients? Not just her clients, her role. The board has authorized me to offer you a partnership track position based in London or Singapore. Your choice. The irony was almost too perfect. Vivica's position. Vivica's office. Vivica's clients. I need to think about it, I said. Of course. Take the weekend. As I left the building, my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. This isn't over. I smiled for the first time in days and replied, Yes, it is. You said you'd pay $100,000 to never see my face again. I took the money. I took your job. I took your reputation. And now I'm taking your clients. Deal complete. I blocked the number before she could respond. 2 days later, I accepted Margot's offer on one condition. I would split my time between London and Singapore. I would not allow my life to be consumed by work again. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've stabilized all but one of Vivica's former clients. I've built a new team, one based on mutual respect and proper credit for work done. I leave the office by 6 p.m. every day. Last week, I heard Vivica accepted a role at a much smaller firm in Manchester. Her London townhouse is on the market. Her professional reputation is shattered. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if my revenge was too complete. Then I remember the 23 times I saved her. The 5 years of my life I can never reclaim. The funeral reception where my family shared memories of my mother without me. And I realized this wasn't just revenge, it was justice. So that's my story. If you've ever been Vivicould, if someone has stolen credit for your work, undermined your confidence, or violated your boundaries, know that you don't have to accept it. Keep records, document everything, and when the time comes, stand up for yourself, because no job, paycheck, or professional relationship is worth sacrificing your dignity or peace of mind. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to our channel. I'd love to hear your workplace experiences in the comments. Have you ever confronted a toxic boss or colleague? How did you handle it? I read every comment, and I'm creating more content about navigating difficult workplaces and building healthy boundaries. Remember, you are irreplaceable. Your work has value and no one has the right to make you feel otherwise.